these elaborate experiments. A photo, a P900 ain't going to prove anything to me at the end of the day. And you got to go with your gut, Dean. You got to go with your gut. And people, I don't care what people call me at the end of the day, my truth is my truth. And, when I was on the flat earth side, I was going with my gut. This is what it was telling me, but it was very simplistic. But because people have explained things to me in a simple way, like yourself and whatnot, the answer that I've got and the research that I've done as well, and I've done quite a bit of research, it sits comfortably, and my gut tells me that it's right. So what else can I say? You just go with your gut. And
you bunch of stupid flat earthers.
Huh?
You bunch of stupid love heads.
Yeah, I know. Startles and all that sort of stuff.
Carlos, this discussion is well above your pay grade. Go on mute. Go on, who's
How'd you know it was me?
Yeah, I'm just that good.
You suck. I mean, I suck.
Yeah, go on mute. Go on mute. You're not adding anything to this. Go on mute.
Mute, sir. Mute.
You suck, Dean.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
No,
I was trying something. It didn't work.
Maximum respect to you, Bantor, because you have actually done what most of them claim that they're going to do, and they never do. They say do your research. Well, if you actually do research, you're going to come to the conclusion that you eventually came to, because I'm afraid there is no research out there that will back up their claims. So you ask the questions and you actually took note of the answers, because they don't. They ask the questions, you give them the answers, and they just go, nope, not listening, don't want to hear. But you did. Yep. You asked the right questions and you got the answers and you paid attention. And eventually, when you add all these answers up, they only lead to one conclusion.
No, you're exactly right, Farmer's Boy. You're exactly right. And also too, like with the whole friendship, thing too, like, all you guys, you knew what side of the fence I was on and whatnot. But when I've been in the side chats in some of the streams and all that sort of stuff, I've had so many Globers like call me out and call me personal filthy names and all that sort of stuff. And I've actually had Globies or planetarians, whatever we want to call them, Dean, come to my defence in the chats, and they've called out other Globies in my defence, saying, "Hey, pull your head in. That's not acceptable with this guy, because he's being honest and he's asking questions and all that sort of stuff. So, pull your head in." And that actually has really impressed me too. And like when I was saying to Daryl, and I don't know if I mentioned it here, there's only one person in the flat Earth debate that knows where I am like right now, that I can call a friend.
Yep.
Right, that I can call a friend. Right, and they don't care because her and I share some common interests and all that sort of stuff, and we've had a good bit of banter, behind the scenes. She lives way up in Queensland and all that sort of stuff. And we've had some good banter about many of other different things, and she doesn't really care. She goes, we've all got our own journey to live, and that's your journey, and good luck to you type of thing. But we're still buddies and all that sort of stuff. And that was good to hear from her. But there's not one flat Earth type of thing. But we're still journey guys. We're still buddies and all that. Has even acted friendly towards me, even though I've been like on their side, type of
No.
thing. But I've had people on the Globe side put out their hand of friendship to me. And that kind of says something to me in a roundabout way.
Why wouldn't we? You know, I mean,
Right.
if you come in like an Oakley, a Riley, a Nathan Thompson, a Red Pill Philosophy, if you come in and you're just a rude, obnoxious piece of shit, you ain't going to get any respect out of us. But if you come in and you do, you know, I mean, you come across as very genuine and you were asking questions and you obviously had some doubt, then
Yeah.
of course, we want you to see what we see. We want you to see reality and not all of this flat earth bollocks. So if you're genuinely asking questions, we're going to give you answers in the hope that you pay attention and 2 and 2 does actually equal 4 and not 7. You know, if it was somebody else, if it was like Spurs Chemo, well, you can't treat him the same way because he just comes out with shit all the time. And what's the point?
No.
You know, he's never going to
exactly.
change because those sort of people, they don't want to hear that. They don't want the answers. They don't want the truth. They don't want to do proper research.
But you know,
so yeah,
if I didn't even enter this arena and go down the path of going down, I wouldn't have actually learnt some of the things that I've learnt along the way. You know, I've actually I find it like, you know, surprising that, you know, they talk about perspective and all this sort of stuff on a 2D sort of thing. But, you know, I actually went down the path, and it was probably more speaking to, you know, a couple of people, and, you know, and Dean also, but actually looking into vision, like the eyeball, and actually looking into it, and actually what makes it, you know, work and tick. And like, I'm no expert or anything like that. It's all very, very complicated. But to actually go down this path anyway, you know, regardless of, you know, where I am now, I've learnt things because I've been honest with myself and I've looked into things, and I've got a broader bank of knowledge now that's in my toolkit that I can
Same here.
that I can do and use and pass on, and especially to my kids too. You know, I know stuff now that, you know, I can pass on to my kids. You know, knowledge that is going to benefit them. You know, and my kids knew where I stood, and we've had conversations about it. And no way have I ever pushed my beliefs about the flat Earth on my kids at all. But we've had conversations about it.
Just really quickly. Sorry. Just really quickly. So it's all right if anybody doesn't want to do this, but I want to close this hangout and try and open one myself. Now, if you got access, if you got the access to the chat, this is the one that I'm going to open. That one.
Right. Let's open that in the new window.
Yeah. I'll put it in Skype as well, Carlos. But I'm going to close this one now, and I'm going to try and stream this one because I just want to try something else with the settings.
All right, yeah, too easy, mate.
All
Close it up, and I'll click this, and we'll go into it.
Cool. Cheers.
Yeah.
Nice, because I'm going to see.
Howdy ho.
Howdy.
Yeah, it's interesting what you're saying about learning. I mean, I'm no scientist. I'm an engineer. I actually design the sort of stuff that you install by the looks of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've learnt and probably relearnt because obviously over the years you forget all sorts of shit. Just being interested in flat Earth for 18 months, I have learned and relearnt so much stuff because, you know, we do actually do the research. When somebody says something and you think, really? That can't be right. Well, you Google it and yourself going down a rabbit hole and sort of going to this site and that site and thinking, oh yeah, he is talking bollocks, or oh yeah, he is right. He's got a point, you know. Whereas I think the clowns, they just stick their fingers in their ears and go, la, 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 I'm not interested.
They've got, like I said, they're so dishonest, farmers boy, and they've got no interest in the truth whatsoever. No, not one little bit of interest. Hey, is that Rumpus?
It's the Rumpus. Oh, hello.
Hey, how you going, man? Have you heard the news? Have you?
No.
Oh,
Go on then.
Come on.
Go on then. Tell him.
I'm a planetarian, global rumpus.
Yeah, well, you can't resist the lot. You sounded like an open-minded, thoughtful truth seeker, and I'm afraid the combination of properties means you're going to end up being a Glaber.
How very well summed up. I like that.
Brilliant way to word that.
No. We were just talking about honesty, Rumpus. I've had in the last couple of days, I've had a few spars with Ranty Flat Earth, Nathan Thompson.
Oh my god.
Chemo Spurs.
Oh my god.
And I mean like full on spars with them. Red Pill.
Oh my god.
As
You've
well.
picked them, haven't you? You really have the selection there.
But
Rumpus,
these blues I've had with them was being a flat earther.
Right, yeah.
Right? And I have called their asses out so hard it wasn't even funny, right? Because they're not honest. They are not honest. And I called them out and I said, you're not after the truth. None of you are after the truth at all. Because if you're after the truth, you would present the information you present in a truthful way. And you're not interested in the truth. All you're interested in is winning a debate point, getting a gotcha moment, and trying to trip people up and make them look stupid and stuff like that. You're not interested in the truth. You want cherry pick. You know, I called them out on the Cavendish experiment, how they like to pull that 2 sentences out of the Cavendish experiment where it mentions 150 millionth with the weight and all that sort of stuff, right? Yeah. And I said, if you guys even read the 64-page document that it came from, you know, have you ever any, none of them have done it, Rumpus. You know, none of them have done that bloody.
I must admit, I haven't read the whole document either. It's quite a grind.
No,
yes.
It is.
Yes.
But look, mate, I'm laid up in bed with 2 broken legs at the moment. I don't
you were
have much
saying,
more to do. You don't have much more to do with my time. So I read it because I had nothing else to do.
Oh, well done. Well, Bansor, you are one of the few people. I mean, Bob claims to have read it. I think there's one other person who claims to have read it. I've read bits of it. But I certainly haven't read all of it.
Yeah, no. And you know, I've spoken to some really smart people, you know, especially about the Cavendish experiment, and when they're honest, like they too will admit that there's flaws in the actual experiment itself, right? The way, especially Big Blue explained it to me, and Barney. The way the mean of averages is kind of, they take all that into consideration, and they work out all the variables and all that sort of stuff. And then when you read the document and you see the effort that's gone into the actual experiment itself, and even though it was 200 years ago and done in a bloody pig shed in the middle of a paddock type of thing, and you can pick a lot of flaws in it. The experiment has been done. Now, you look on YouTube, and the experiments you see on YouTube look way more flawed than the ones that were done in a bloody pig shed, to be quite honest with you. Oh. But there are some that look like they've gone to a hell of a lot of effort. And there's obviously a lot of people out there that have actually done it in far more controlled circumstances than what you see too. So there's got to be something. There's got to be something.
He got good results. I mean, other people who not trying to emulate haven't been able to do so necessarily.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that I understand bloody anything about the orbits and really how they work out the distances to the sun and what it's made of through spectrometers and all that sort of stuff.
It's quite easy. I mean, if anybody asks you the distance to the sun, we recently, in the 1960s, we started bouncing radio waves off the damn thing, so that was easy to do.
Oh,
and prior to that,
I didn't know that. I thought we'd never been able to radio range the sun. I thought we actually worked it out from knowing the orbits and being able to radio range closer bodies, you know, like a couple of million miles away. Like we were able to use parallax to accurately gauge to
Yeah,
within.
that was how it was first done, but no, it's in the 1960s they first did it. In the early 60s they first bounced some radio waves off it, and then more recently they've been able to do better jobs. But it's the 1960s because they found a radio frequency that, because obviously this sun is a writhing plasma radiating light and also electromagnetic radiation, but there's one frequency that it's not emitting on, a radio frequency that it's not emitting on, so you can hit it with that and then get the signal back and recognize that was the signal you sent. I think I remember it was something like 2.8 megahertz or gigahertz, one of the two. George knows. It's one of those two. I think it's 2.8. I think no, it's a megahertz one. And so therefore you can get out, even though this sun is a sort of rampaging, furious, goddamn thing, you can actually bounce things off it because it is obviously pretty solid. I mean, it's got the density. I think it's 1.4 times the density of water, so it's a solid thing. But it's obviously animated, but you can still bounce things off. So yeah, that's well established. But obviously, in the first decent measurement of it was in 1672 when we did the parallax trick. Well, the way we did that, we first of all worked out the distance to Mars because that's the closest planet. And there's at a particular point in the orbit when it was closer to us and opposite the sun, so we could look, because obviously looking at you don't want to be looking at the sun while trying to do accurate observations of Mars. So you wait until it's an opposition, as it's called. That means to say there's a line formed between the sun, the Earth, and Mars, and then you directly behind you, in effect, if you want to think of it as looking at the Mars, behind you is the sun. You're looking directly at Mars. You then do a parallax observation. They did in 1672. They got a French Cassini with one observation in Paris, and the other, I think it was French Guiana. They then did a parallax measurement on that to Mars, and Mars is sufficiently close that you can do parallax observations. The sun is not sufficiently close to do parallax observations on it. So they managed to work out the distance to Mars to a reasonable, sort of not reasonable value for it. And then from Kepler's laws, they managed to find out then the distance to the sun. And then later on in 1782, then when we had the Cook expedition, which was to observe the transit of Venus. Halley of the comet and fame worked out a procedure of how you would use the transit of Venus to get a better parallax measurement, and then Captain Cook actually then executed that long after Halley had died. He just demonstrated a system for it, and so they got another better measurement for the sun. That was quite a good measurement to the sun. So there've been so it's quite easy to understand how the transit to Venus. I haven't explained how the geometry works, but there are several independent ways that we've measured the distance to the sun, including just simply bouncing radio beams off it, and all those agree with what they are. So you shouldn't be confused by anybody challenging on this bandsaw. There are lots of independent methods of measuring the distance to the sun. And if anybody tells you they relied on the Venus being the same size as the Earth, no, they didn't. Huygens did that before the measurement I mentioned about Cassini, because they didn't have the they didn't have the Mars observation. They hadn't sorted out an expedition to look at how far away Mars was. So then Huygens then decided to make an assumption about the size of Venus to then give him a sort of idea of what was going on, and from that he was able to do a sort of Kepler's law type thing. But the first proper measurement was by Cassini. So don't let anybody ever tell you that they're using the size of Venus to determine the size of the sun, because they're not. They're not. That was the very first attempt. And we're not interested in flawed attempts that were made. We're only interested in the validated attempts with using proper geometry. So anybody quote you how someone did it badly, that's irrelevant. It's like saying, well, okay, someone built a petrol engine bad and it didn't work. So bloody what?
Yeah, exactly. It's like what the sun's made of, and they say they do it through spectrometers. I think it is. Yeah, spectroscopy, right? And like, to me, when I first heard that, right, it's like, really, you can tell what the sun's made by.
Well, have you ever done when you're at school? Did you ever have a chemistry experiment where you put different elements inside on Bunsen burners and seeing what colours the salts and things? Well, that's doing exactly the same thing. Every element has a characteristic wavelength that absorbs and emits, and so you can just look at the sun and say, "Oh, look, we can see these colours." Like special bands that sorted.
But the way when I first got into it, and that was Well, it wasn't put like that. It was put way more complicatedly, right? And it's just like, yeah, you know what? That just like sounds like unicorns in my backyard, to be quite honest with you, right?
Science. There's a lot of clever people doing science and work out clever little things. And,
oh yeah, no, I realise that, Rumpus. And you guys know Grimm or Mr. Grimm or whatever his name.
Yes, he's an idiot. Yes, no, he's an
idiot. I've had some interaction with him on the Discord channel, and I don't really like his personality, but he's into the whole electric universe.
Yeah,
and yeah, no, I'm not going down that path. But I did actually look at a couple of videos on the electric universe and the plasma and all that sort of stuff.
Oh God, you've seen that one from that bloody NASA science guy giving a lecture, about 45-minute YouTube video. I think it's the one that Grim V linked me to. It's utter bollocks.
Oh yeah, but
just wait a minute, Rumpus. There's someone in my chat that has joined called Lucy Miller. She says, "Tell Mr. Rumpus he needs to detail this information in a video." To which others can refer, and that's a really good thing. And how's your website thing coming along as well?
Well, I've got 5 videos. I'm trying to do a video with conspiracy cats at the moment. I'm trying to do a video in response to bloody Riley and his relative density. I'm trying to do this bloody 170-page website with also making videos for that. And I'm trying to do a video on. Also, I'm having hopefully a hangout with George Musser in the next week. So I'm doing a video, and I'm trying to do a website with that, with a presentation of setting out how gravity and space bends, and I'm just going a bit bonkers. And so yes, I should do another video on some simple things like distance.
Yeah, and don't forget the video you need to do for Chris that you've been promising for a year, and the one for me that you've promised 2 years ago.
I did. That's true, George. Yeah, George has got the best claim on my time.
It's George. Hey,
so
George.
yeah, I'm being a bit crap. Well, the trouble is, I've got this new policy now where I try and do a website associated with each video. So I try and actually lay out, and it means because I want to be able to put the because I think a lot of them don't necessarily want to go through.
Rumpus, you're your own worst enemy. What you need to do is stop making promises.
Yeah. I suppose the conspiracy cats are supposed to be doing something today, but fortunately he didn't have time. So that was a promise I made to him. And George Musser, I want to get this George Musser thing out the way. So I'm having to do quite a lot of work on that, and I'm ordering a book on gravitation to help me come to terms with that, how to explain properly this bloody bending of space time and how it manifests.
The Musser thing, the Musser one should be the highest priority.
It should be, yeah. That's the one.
You should stop making promises.
Yeah,
you get yourself in big trouble when you say you're going to do a video on this for someone.
Indeed, yeah, I know. The trouble is, there's so much to. I mean, you know, George. I mean, you've done lots of videos with. But imagine if you tried to do whiteboard videos, plus you try to draw the graphics for it, and try to create a website for it, and it suddenly turns into a massive task. And you've got to write English and things, make it look pretty. And I spend half my time trying to draw the graphics, and I show you. I mean, I'm trying to I'll show you what I've been.
Very time consuming. I have like about 20 videos, 80% finished, but. Finding the time to finish things and get them all uploaded and that it's very time consuming. Well, before you do the science and the scientific method, I highly recommend you watch what Jim Panda did on that here a few weeks ago in response to Quantum Eraser. I thought he did a fairly respectable job on that.
Where was that?
Jim Panda 2012 on his Jim Panda 2012 channel. There's a video on there called something to do with Quantum Eraser.
Yes.
It's one of his videos about the scientific method, and I thought he did a fairly respectable job on that.
Well, if you're referring to the same video I think you're referring to, he did that about 3 months ago.
Oh, maybe that's when it was.
And it's absolutely excellent. It's one of the best videos. He absolutely nailed it. He talked about the manipulation, what is involved in experiment, whether you have to manipulate anything, whether you have to have a hypothesis. And I did.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about.
It's absolute. I completely agree with you, George. That's an absolute masterpiece. I would like to have made that video, and it does. It captures exactly what I wanted to say in many ways, and it's superbly done. It is an absolutely brilliant, and I do recommend it to anybody who wants to know how to tackle the Nathan argument with regard to requiring whether or not the scientific method he claims about cause and effect, go and look at that video by Jem Panda, the one that George was referring to, which I think is about 3 or 4 months old. It's number 4, I think something like Nathan number 4 or something like that. So it's about 8 videos back from his most recent, or perhaps 5 videos back. I think it's number 4. Something like Nathan's idiocy number 4 or something. I challenge him on that sentence that he talks about. He's in his wording, he seems to imply that gravity is the bending of space-time, and I would argue what we call gravity is a force, and it's the manifestation of the bending of space-time. And what the bending of space-time is not gravity. That's not gravity, but the manifestation of it. We are perfectly entitled to call a force in our reference frame and call that gravity. But his sentence that he uses, I'm going to challenge him a little bit to the language he uses. But he hasn't quite agreed to do the hangout. Well, he has agreed to do the hangout in principle, but we haven't got a date sorted yet. So, hopefully that'll happen in the next week or so. He's very busy at the moment, apparently.
Jim's videos, he may have updated it or something, because it says the one I'm referring to is